Hello, this is Tom from Tabletop Tap Room. We've had a little hiatus, family issues, and I beg your forgiveness. I've been away, but we're back. I have a little bit of a burn to do a new series, and this started because I was just watching a few days ago. I was watching The Basic Expert, and it was a video he did several months ago titled "Bob World Builder is Wrong." And in that video, he read the preface and the preface and the foreword from the Making of the Original D&D from 1970 to 77. You know, here we go, cover of the book. And I got thinking about it because it's there's been this legacy disclaimer. And there's been some controversy about that. There are family members of the original creators who are a little bit like salty, we'll use that word, with WotC. There are grognards, OSR types who are a little bit like, excuse me? I mean, even the basic expert is like, talk about, I forget what word he used. It was I'm going to use a word. He's like lowbrow. That you would put this legacy disclaimer and then continue to make, trashing the memory and the work of Gygax and Arneson, and then continue to, but we're going to make money off of it. We're going to use it, but we're going to trash it. And I thought, he had some good points. But as he read the preface and the foreword, I thought, there's some allegations in there that can be tested, because when you read the legacy disclaimer that's on a lot of the drive-through material, it's very nebulous. It's very kind of out there. So that's a little bit harder to test, but they actually went further with this, the Making of the Original D&D, and they put some real, fairly specific allegations in there. And I thought, these can be tested. We can do a test on these and see if because in the foreword, was it the preface? Wait a minute. Yeah, it was within the foreword. The guy who did the foreword actually said, he reiterated some of the same allegations from the preface, and then he goes, and therefore, let me get the exact language here. So he goes to reiterate the disclaimer, which Wizards of the Coast included in the legacy content. These depictions were wrong then and wrong today. Well, since they went quite a bit further than the legacy disclaimer, I thought these allegations really are testable, and let's test them. Let's test them. Let's call balls and strikes. And so that is my plan with this series. I'm going to test one allegation per video, and we're going to look at the original D&D content and see if it's so. And if it's so, we're going to call the ball. But if it's not, we're going to call the strike. And so at the end of each video, I'll be calling a ball or a strike. And we will see if WotC has struck out with this in the end. Now, numerous allegations, because one of the first ones was that it says that the original content was a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory words that were casually hurtful to anyone who was physically, mentally, had physical or mental disability, who was old, fat, or conventionally unattractive. I mean, they just said old and fat. Why not just say ugly? But they, conventionally unattractive, indigenous, or a woman. I think all of those things can be tested. We can look for, I've begun Googling online for catalogs of words that were derogatory or what was the phrase here? Virtual catalog insensitive and derogatory words that were casually hurtful. I actually use that phrase, casually hurtful words, towards indigenous or towards women and so I've begun to compile some of these lists. Now, that's going to be the harder part of this, so I'm saving those videos for later. Today we're going to do a softball, something very, very easy to test. And so for the first few videos I will do. So if you think the words that I should be looking for in the original D&D documents, you can send those to me. You can put them in comments. You can, put them in an email, send me an IM on Facebook if you want. I'm not that hard to find. I mean, trolls from the new TSR crowd find me all the time and send me anonymous emails. So I think you should be able to do the same as well. I just don't go hiding. I just don't go hiding my email and make it difficult for people to find me. You can find me. So if you've got a list of words that you think that like, oh, these are what's insensitive. This is the insensitive stuff. Like, for instance, concerning indigenous, when I was looking up indigenous, things like circle the wagons are considered casually harmful to indigenous people. Wild Indians, the phrases like that, circle the wagons. What was one of the other ones? Circle the wagons stands out because it's a phrase that you see in movies. It's a phrase I think I've used myself. It means circle up, prepare to protect yourself. And I happen to know that particular action of circling the wagons goes back to the 1400s, to the Hussites. And John Ziska with his war wagons. One of his tactics was to circle the wagons, and then they'd run chains through the wheels of one wagon to the next, so that the attacking enemy army couldn't tip the wagons over. So circling the wagons is a very old tactic, but it's definitely something I've used. But it's considered casually harmful. But I mean, honestly, do we really think we're going to find circle the wagons in original D&D? No, we're not going to. So things like that, I will discount from the list of casual virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory words. Certainly, Indian and Chief would be in there, so we'll look for those and we'll make a judgment call and call the balls and strikes on those. But compiling those lists is a little bit of a challenge. So if you feel like you've got something to say concerning those areas, hey, this word, stuff towards women. I mean, those words, witch with a B, truck with a S at the beginning. See you next Tuesday. Those are certainly on the list, but I don't expect to find witch with a B and truck with an S at the beginning, or see you next Tuesday in the original D&D. So I really had to dig. And so those lists are going to require a lot of work, and I will be doing those, and I'll save those videos towards the end. And we're going to start with this very specific statement from the preface, and then we will have a further statement from the foreword concerning slavery. And it reads, slavery appears in the original D&D not as a human tragedy that devastated generations over centuries. They're clearly thinking about slavery here in America, that it was a human tragedy and it devastated generations for centuries here in America and elsewhere in the world, but as a commercial transaction. That's a very specific allegation, one we should be able to test. Furthermore, in the foreword, it says the rules made light of slavery, and in addition to including other harmful content. So we're going to be looking for slavery as a commercial transaction and the rules making light of slavery. It's going to be very easy, because what I'm going to be able to do is I've got a Google Drive file of OD&D documents, because when you say original D&D, I believe that to be the chainmail fantasy campaign. What was the title here? Rules for fantasy medieval wargame campaigns playable with paper and pencils and miniature figures. What a title that is. As well as swords and spells for fantastic miniature rules. And then Eldritch Wizardry and gods, demigods, and heroes, as well as the Greyhawk supplement, the Blackmoor supplement. And and I actually consulted the Greyhawk Grognard on this. I feel like I should also include the Holmes Basic rules, because the Holmes Basic rules was an attempt to take all of this other material, this OD&D material, what's been referred to as OD&D, and make it much more presentable, make it much more accessible. And so I'm going to include the Holmes. You can totally discount anything I say about Holmes in the process and say, I'm with the Greyhawk Grognard, with Joe Block. Tom's off as rocker. I'm going to include it because I think some people would also possibly consider Holmes to be part of the original D&D. It's not going to hurt to check and see what's in Holmes concerning this. So, let me do the business end of things. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Thanks to my subscribers, guys. You're great. Apologize for the long hiatus due to family matters, but I'm back. And don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and bell icon if you like this content. One, it'll certainly encourage me to do more of it. Two, helps build the channel. Throw the dog a bone. Hit that like and subscribe, please, and thank you. So we're looking at slavery as a commercial transaction in the original D&D. We're also looking for the rules to make light of slavery in the original D&D. As per this allegation, in the Making of the Original D&D, published by Wizards of the Coast, and it's a greater elaboration on their legacy disclaimer. So, and it's things we can actually test. So, looking at chainmail and all the other supplements that go with it, I have discovered that, pull up a different document here. Here we go. So, chainmail, fantastic medieval wargame campaigns, that big long title, swords and spells, Eldritch, swords and spells, gods, demigods, and heroes. These four have zero references to slavery, and enslaved. Absolutely none at all in those four. Now, Eldritch Wizardry has two concerning slave. And in Eldritch Wizardry, and again, remember, we're looking for commercial transaction, reducing slavery not to a human tragedy, but to just a commercial transaction that you engage in. Looking at Eldritch Wizardry, the first reference to slave is when a wizard summons a demon and then uses some method to compel the demon to serve him. It then says that the demon will seek to break free and kill that wizard. But if they happen to like them a little bit, they put this little option in there. If they happen to like them a little bit, they will take that wizard back to their demonic plane, wherever that happens to be, and make them a slave and enslave them. So that's the first. So this is clearly not a commercial transaction. This is clearly presented as a consequence, like maybe you don't want to do this. This could happen. Don't do this. Don't stand up. Those things you tell your kids not to do. Don't. This is clearly from the authors going like, you can do this. You're free to do this. But if you do, this could be a consequence. Don't do it. So that's one, the reference. The second reference is, it's in the description of this iron flask in there. It's an artifact. And apparently there's a demon that's imprisoned in the iron flask. And you have to know like a command word that frees him. You have to know a spell that controls him. And then you have to know another spell that locks him back in the iron flask. So it's very complicated, but it says that the demon is the slave to the flask. It's the classic genie in the bottle thing, that the genie is locked in the bottle. He can grant 3 wishes, but he goes back in the bottle and then he's waiting for the next owner of the bottle to grant 3 wishes to them. And it is what it is. So it's not making light of slavery. It's, again, the classic folklore, straight out of 101 Arabian Nights and so on and so forth. It is not a commercial transaction that makes light of slavery. So that is Eldritch Wizardry. So we're now 5 down of these. The next document would be Greyhawk, the Greyhawk supplement. This was Gary Gygax's campaign supplement for the Greyhawk setting. And there's only one, there's only one example of the word slave, and it happens to be enslavement. And it's in the description to the ogre magi, the Japanese ogre. And it says, and I'll read the exact quote. It says, these abominations typically lure and raid for human victims to pillage, devour, or enslave. Now, what I find interesting here is Gary Gygax actually says these creatures are abominations. Their alignment is evil. They are an agent of evil. He's very specific. They're an agent of evil, and he calls them an abomination. Now, I don't know for sure if they're an abomination, if they were an abomination before and they just happen to raid and devour humans and enslave them, or are they an abomination because they raid and pillage and devour humans and enslave them? Not sure which way you could. I feel like you could go either way on that, make a judgment call. But clearly, Gary Gygax views this activity of enslaving human beings as something, dare I say, abominable, something that is evil, something that the player character should be concerned over, because this is an activity of evil, and it's loosely defined. Dungeons and Dragons is loosely defined as a battle between good and evil. You are there to stop this evil. This evil's going on, therefore you must stop it. And here's the one example in Greyhawk. Certainly not the commercial transaction alleged by WotC. Certainly not making light of slavery, because he uses words like abominations in the same sentence. This is an abomination that they do this, I feel. So Greyhawk. So here we are. We're now 6 down on this. Blackmoor. Let's skip Blackmoor and go to Holmes Basic. As I specified, Holmes Basic was an attempt to take all of the original OD&D documents and put them into a very teaching, very player accessible thing that they weren't so much in these. If you really dig into these, you find like, wow, yeah, these are a little bit challenging to use. They were written by wargamers for wargamers. They're a bit challenging to use. So Holmes Basic was an attempt to clean it up and make it accessible. Holmes Basic has one iteration of the word slave, and it's enslavement. And just like Greyhawk, it is the Nixies description. Nixies are a water spirit, a fey creature. And it says that these water sprites will attempt to charm humans, lure them underwater, and enslave them for 1 year. And I believe somewhere, not necessarily in the Holmes Basic, but in one of the other documents where it talks about Nixies, it does specify that they will cast water breathing for the humans so that they don't drown. But this, again, is not a commercial transaction. This is not making light of slavery. This is your classic folk tale of fairies trying to trick and lure and entrap humans. Comes straight out of German folk tales. So again, and this is the only use of the word slave in the Holmes Basic. So again, we got to say no. Now, Blackmoor. Blackmoor becomes the problem child. There are 7 references to slave in it. And you can very easily find these and check them out yourself. If you've got it as a PDF on your computer, you go over to the 3 dots, click on the 3 dots, go to find, type in slave. Slave will give you every instance of slave, slavery, and enslavement, because slave is a part of those other 2 words. So let's actually do that and do a share screen. So here we are with Blackmoor. And so Blackmoor, I've kind of enlarged it already. Let's go to the 3 dots, find, and type in slave. And right away, 1 of 7 is, I think, the verse that caused someone to say what they said in the preface of the Making of the Original D&D. And so here we have, it says, in further efforts to increase the number of frogs, the brothers have sought to increase the purchase of slaves for the sacrifice and raise the necessary revenue by trading their handicrafts and their medicines with the outside worlds. Boom, right there. Well, boy, that just sounds like a commercial transaction. However, you would come to that conclusion if you were skimming this and you didn't read it carefully, because actually this is the section on the Temple of the Frog. And when you read this a little more carefully, you find out the Temple of the Frog is hidden in the swamp. It is cut off from the outside world. There's no connection between it and the outside world. The brothers who run the Temple of the Frog are evil, and they consider humankind to be a waste of space, and that it would be better for the highest life form to be an animal. So they've been raising frogs, killer frogs, that are 2 feet long, have razor sharp teeth, have razor sharp claws, and they like to feed them and fatten them by feeding them human slaves. Now, to get human slaves, they actually send out traders. In this verse here, it says, the traders are recruited exclusively from among the most loyal brothers to serve for a period of no more than 10 years as roving merchants. Since the outside contact with the temple is to be avoided, these merchants further disguise themselves as traders from far places to avoid identification with the brothers of the swamp, always traveling in groups of 3 or more, so on and so forth. The brothers have also sponsored a group of bandits. And it's from the bandits who raid and then just take prisoners of people and then sell those prisoners as slaves to the brothers. The brothers then use them as slaves. And when they feel like it, they feed a few of those slaves to the frogs. This is evil. This is not, there is certainly no simple, straightforward commercial transaction here. This is presented as evil action by evil actors to be stopped. Okay, this is all background information on this Temple of the Frog that Dave Arneson put in here. And you could say, well, geez, Tom, I'm not sure. Wait a minute. I believe there's a document we can go to that will enlighten us a little bit further. So here we go with, now this is a document that's later in history. Here we are, 1986. So copyright 1986, TSR Inc., all rights reserved. So this comes later in the history. This is no longer a original D&D document. This is from the, you can see, if you know anything about D&D, you can see this is from the BX era of modules. This is module GA2 for Dungeons and Dragons Expert Game, Temple of the Frog, written by Dave L. Arneson and Dave J. Ritchie. So some great artwork on here. So this is an actual module based off of Dave Arneson's material. Let's type in slave. I happen to know there are 53 instances of slaves and slavery, slaves, slavers, etc. in this module, because it's a whole module about the Temple of the Frog. So let's just go to this. Yeah, blow it up. Let's make it big. Put it right on screen. There we go. And right here. Now, well, slavery has always been a blight on the land, and it's become a serious problem in the last half year. Here in Blackmoor, it's illegal. Blackmoor is Dave Arneson's beloved setting that he created. It's his first setting. It's a setting he continued to run. It's his beloved setting. and slavery, and he made slavery illegal in Blackmoor. I think that's very telling. But he also says that it's always been a blight on the land. So this is certainly not, this speaks to that. Slavery is not a commercial transaction. That in the original Blackmoor supplement, and look, I get it. It's a little bit rough, but Dave Arneson was not known for writing polished material. It was just rough lists. I mean, you talk to Tim Kask about this, and it was a lot of trouble to clean it up. So yeah, I get that the Blackmoor supplement, if you just skimmed it, you could jump to that conclusion, but there's certainly other documents come a little bit later based off that earlier material that speak to Dave Arneson's mind and makes it very clear he is not talking about a commercial transaction. He is not making light of slavery. He is setting up the slavery that goes on in this Temple of the Frog is a blight on the land. Gygax called slavery an abomination in the description to the Ogre Magi, or I imply that he viewed slavery as an abomination. So the founders and creators of Dungeons and Dragons were done a disservice by claiming that they made light of slavery in the rules of the original D&D. It's just not the facts. These are all the documents of the original D&D. I've included Holmes Basic, just to be thorough, just to be thorough, but these are all the documents, and it does not exist. It simply is just, there's no reference to slavery, or when it is, it's about enslavement done by an evil actor like the Ogre Magi or the Nixies, which are just a tricky fairy type creature sprite that seeks to follow the same pattern of folklore where fae and sprites and fairy creatures try to lure and trick humans. There is no commercial transaction going on here. There's no, oh, hey, you can buy a slave for 20 gold pieces. There's none of that. It doesn't exist. In the greater scheme of things, we have to call a strike on WotC, on Wizards of the Coast.
Strike?
They completely got this wrong. They either, at best, they were quick to judge, they made a quick judgment, or they just out lied. But either way, it is a strike on WotC for this very issue. This allegation against original D&D and against the founders does not hold up at all. Just does not hold up at all anywhere in this. So this is Tom for Tabletop Taproom with our analyzation of this preface and forward from the Making of the Original D&D with its fairly serious allegations. We're gonna continue with the series. We're gonna do a few softballs here, a few easy ones to tackle, and then get into the harder ones where the allegations are a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory words towards classes of people. Those will be a little bit harder because we got to assemble those catalogs of insensitive and derogatory words. That takes a little bit of work. So this is Tom for Tabletop Taproom calling a strike on WotC. For their rush to judgment, at best, a rush to judgment based off of a very poor, thin skimming of the Blackmoor supplement. And frankly, Blackmoor is a supplement for a setting. And their statement was the rules make light of. Not even true. So even if you want to say, no, I don't agree with you on the Blackmoor material, well, they're still wrong when they say the rules make light of, because the rules have nothing to say concerning slavery whatsoever. The actual rules say nothing concerning slavery. So definitely a strike. Calling that on WotC. Will be continuing to call strikes and balls on WotC through this series as it progresses. Thanks again for watching. This is Tom for Tabletop Taproom. Don't forget that like, subscribe, and bell icon. And as always, keep on playing, but don't be making light of slavery. It is a harmful and ugly institution, and there's nothing actually more noble than the fight to end slavery, which is what is going on in Blackmoor and Temple of the Frog. So that material being in D&D is actually a noble thing. It's actually noble that the players are fighting slavery and ending it. And so this is Tom checking out. Keep on gaming.